This house is so rich in tradition and history. It has so many famous moments. Dovima with the elephants, Elizabeth Taylor wearing it over and over again, Lauren Bacall, Rita Hayworth, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicole Kidman at the Oscars with Tom Cruise. They're dresses that make the images that really symbolize time and moments in fashion history that are so essential. Welcome back to Hello Fashion. We're in Brooklyn, my hometown, at the Brooklyn Museum at the Christian Dior exhibition. I'm really excited to walk you through all of this and talk about the codes and history of this house. We're gonna start in the toile room. This room is the beginnings of all the dresses. If you watch this show regularly, I talk about toiles a lot. But when you're dealing with couture especially, and often ready to wear, the fabrics are so expensive that the beginning of a piece is made in cotton because it's easy to write on and mark up. You can pin, you can cut it, you can draw on it, and then give it to the seamstresses to bring it to life in the real fabric. You really see the ideas. This is like a room of ghosts. It's like the very beginning of all the ideas, and it's super beautiful and white. The House of Christian Dior was founded in 1946. Mr. Christian Dior was born to a very wealthy family in Granville, France. He moved to Paris when he was 5, and much to his parents' chagrin, became an art dealer first and not a politician. But he was a very successful art dealer and worked with tons of the most important artists of the day. Then the Great Depression came. And sadly, he lost his mother and his brother, and his family lost their fortune. He was really a mess and went to the countryside to think about things and was doing little drawings and realized that he really enjoyed drawing women's fashion, hats, illustration, and began selling them to designers and also to newspapers. At this point, he decides to start his own house. The House of Dior is formed. And at the time, women are wearing really utilitarian clothes because they'd been at war. Things are simple, they're work-a-day, they don't use too much fabric, and Mr. Dior shows the new look. The new look is what his show was named by Carmel Snow, who was an American editor who attended the first show. The new look is symbolized by a wasp waist and a full skirt. It creates an hourglass silhouette. This is the most iconic look from Mr. Dior's first collection. It's the bar jacket, and it's the first bar jacket. It was called an afternoon ensemble. I love the idea of wearing that for the afternoon. It really symbolizes so much of what this house is still known for. The tiny waspy waist, the padded hip, and the voluminous pleated silk skirt. The wasp waist was a reinstatement of the corset. The corset had been let go for a few years. And the full skirt really symbolized luxury and excess. It was actually quite scandalous at the time because people weren't using things that didn't need to be used. The excess was considered so extravagant to be almost distasteful. The bar jacket was in that first show, and the bar jacket is one of the most enduring codes of the House of Dior. I'm wearing a bar jacket now, and you can see it's got these little pockets and the nipped-in waist. It's a masculine jacket, but it creates an hourglass silhouette. And although this look is new, it's from Maria Grazia Chiuri, who is the current designer, it essentially is the new look, just made modern. We don't wear corsets anymore, but the silhouette is still there. So Mr. Dior loved America, and America loved him back. One thing I found really interesting in reading about this is that American stores and seamstresses were great clients of the couture. And what would happen is that women who wanted to buy couture dresses would attend the couture shows. But these department stores and sewers would attend the couture shows too, and they would purchase at a different price. So stores and sewers would be charged double or sometimes triple because in essence they were buying an idea. And they would bring that back to the US and they would manufacture their own clothes based on the dress that they had purchased. So American women were wearing the new look, maybe not of Dior, but they were wearing looks that were inspired by the Dior looks Mr. Dior had shown. He thought American women and the idea of ready-to-wear was really exciting, which was unusual for a French couturier. He also loved perfume. He started with Miss Dior, which was named after his sister. And his love of flowers is represented in every collection, but also embodied in his fragrance. He didn't consider a look complete without the fragrance. He was fascinated by American women's idea of fragrance. So for French women, a fragrance is something that's identifiable and signature. It's part of you. And American women at the time considered fragrance sort of part of their beauty routine. And he really aspired to teach women to appreciate fragrance the way they appreciate clothes, that it completes the look, that it's part of the ambiance of Dior. Mr. Dior died suddenly when he was 52 years old on a holiday in Italy. And strangely for someone so young, right before he left, he made sure that everybody knew that this assistant in his atelier, Yves Saint Laurent, should be his successor. Now, this didn't make a lot of sense. Yves Saint Laurent had only worked at the house for a very short period of time, and he was only 21 years old. He had no other experience, but Mr. Dior found a real kinship of spirit with him. He really admired Yves Saint Laurent's vision, and he thought the young man was the person who should lead his house. I find it interesting that he almost predicted his own death, and that sort of leads us back to another code of the house. Mr. Dior was very superstitious. He loved psychics. He loved tarot cards. He famously had his tarot cards read before every single show. And maybe one of these psychics had told him of his impending doom, but it does seem strange to name your successor at such a young age. So Yves Saint Laurent had been raised in North Africa, and he came to Paris because he won a competition for drawing. And an editor at Vogue, who was a friend of his mother's, introduced him to Mr. Dior, and he started working there. And he was a shy, slight, and unbelievably talented young man. The atelier loved him famously. All the women, the models, the fit girls, the seamstresses adored him. So Yves Saint Laurent was only the designer at Dior for 4 years. And during that time, he broke away from the new look. So Mr. Dior had been famous for this wasp-waisted silhouette with extravagant skirts that was really made for the ladies, and the ladies loved it. And Yves Saint Laurent was from a different generation. He was younger, and he was looking at the kids on the street, the people like him, and thinking, they really don't want so much discomfort in their clothes. There's no reason clothes need to be so uncomfortable. So he did away with the boning and the structure and loosened the silhouette and brought an ease. And you can see in this dress, it's just like an easy shift. He put pockets in it and got rid of the corset. It was really easy for women to wear. I think there's so much beauty in this back. These looks still feel very modern. But at the time that he showed these skirts, that collection was called the Hobble collection, and they're tied around the legs to change a woman's walk, which is really interesting because he was all about, making things easier to wear, and then he made this collection that was so completely difficult to wear. When Yves Saint Laurent left, another assistant at the house, Marc Bohan, is named the successor. Marc Bohan's tenure at Dior was longer than anyone else's. He was beloved by the customer and by the fashion press. He made collections that really symbolize a lot of what we think of as Dior today. And he was also very, very loyal to the legacy of Mr. Dior. All the codes of the house are represented throughout. For a really long time after he took over, he continued to name every dress. Every dress had a poetic name, a name about a party it would attend, a name after a flower. Marc Bohan's designs weren't revolutionary. They weren't particularly scandalous. They weren't shocking, but they were incredibly beautiful, and they are some of the most iconic dresses of the house. People love to wear these dresses, and you can see why. They are very modern, they look really easy to wear, they feel couture, they feel alive. These dresses feel timeless. I feel that Maria Grazia's latest collection probably drew some inspiration from these colored coat looks. So those are the early years of Dior. After Marc Bohan comes Gianfranco Ferré, who for me really symbolizes sort of 80s luxury, excess, over-the-top dressing. followed by John Galliano, who was revolutionary for Dior. He was an iconoclast and really encapsulated so much of the spirit of the time. He broke down the codes, he made things different, he invented the saddlebag, which we all love today. Every show had an exciting theme and drew inspiration from a different part of the world. The dresses are over the top. The workmanship and the quality of work is clearly on display. I think it's really exciting to see what he did with the atelier. When you look at something like this, you can't even begin to imagine how it was made. Like, where did they start? How much fabric is in this dress? And how many hours of embroidery? This newspaper print was one of the things that was most memorable of John Galliano's time. The idea that couture dresses could be made of newspapers. It's like the most mundane kind of trash elevated to the highest level of fashion. Following John Galliano's departure, the design team took over for a period, and then Raf Simons came to the House of Dior. Raf Simons was such a modernist. He brought a real return to the Miss Dior gown. He also did beautiful bar jackets and really paid homage to the love of flowers for the house. You can really see how conceptual his work was. I styled Natalie Portman in this look. Raf's color sensibility is so contrasty and stark, and these dresses are so architectural. They're really heady and mindful. In 2016, Maria Grazia Chiuri came to the House of Dior from Valentino. She was the first woman named design director of this house. The idea of an Italian woman running the House of Dior was revolutionary. She really embraced that and really wanted to lean into the spirit of the times. Her first show was really most memorable for the t-shirts. The t-shirts have continued and they've evolved, and she really feels strongly about political activism and incorporating modern artists' work into her own. She also very much loves and pays homage to the codes of this house. In her work, you see the tarot, you see the flowers, you see the bar jacket reinvigorated and reimagined in knits, in silk, in wool, in almost any way you could imagine making a bar jacket. Maria Grazia presents it to us. Her work is really an homage to her time, to feminism, and to Mr. Dior himself. You can see the inspiration comes from mysticism and the tarot, and this like gilded, beautiful, beautiful cascading string and silk. There's a real combination here of taking inspiration from Mr. Dior and also taking inspiration from art. The embroidered panels behind are by Judy Chicago, and they're part of the collection of Christian Dior, but they're clearly the inspiration for these designs. You can see the techniques, the embroidery, the three-dimensional flowers on the cape, the work on this first dress, pleated tulle that feels lighter than air. So here's the Dovima with elephants dress. This picture is probably the most famous fashion picture there ever was, and this dress is like forever the chicest dress. I had heard that the elephants ate the dress, so I don't know if this is the original one, but it's devastatingly chic. This room is the Stars and Dior room, which of course I love the most because I love stars and Dior. But this one in particular I love. Elizabeth Taylor wore this when she won an Oscar. And it's just such a photogenic dress, and the picture of her wearing it is so iconic. And this is actually the Marilyn Monroe dress from that Bert Stern photo. I love how conservative this dress is in the front. I mean, it's entirely covered. It's like a nun could wear this dress. And then the back is completely open. She looks almost as if she's naked from behind. So this dress is maybe why I do my job, and I think it might be my favorite red carpet dress ever. It's a John Galliano Dior dress that was worn by Nicole Kidman to the Oscars with Tom Cruise in 1997. I remember watching it on TV and just having my breath taken away. The color is so strong and strange, and the embroidery is so magnificent. There are these tassels hanging off the back, and there's this sort of like net panel on the side, and then there's this little bit of a bizarre color pink fur trim at the bottom. And I just remember thinking, God, that's so cool. It was such a risk, that color on a redhead. And it kind of encapsulates why I do what I do. I love the idea of like the best dress in fashion on the most exciting woman at any given time, and that image sort of symbolizing the world we're living in at the time. Not every house can have an exhibition like this. The House of Christian Dior has history. There's so much to explore and understand and explain. Not every house is able to create so much beauty and so much visual language that we all relate to. So that's Christian Dior at the Brooklyn Museum. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, ring the bell, and leave any questions in the comments. See you next week.